You know that feeling in a playoff series where one game just suddenly feels heavier, like everything's tilting?
Absolutely. The momentum shifts, the pressure ramps up.
Exactly. So today, we're diving into that Golden State Warriors versus Houston Rockets matchup, trying to figure out what all the recent chatter really means for this series.
Yeah, there's a lot flying around. Player performance, team dynamics.
Right, and even some whispers about potentially huge future moves. We've been digging into some analysis specifically from a recent First Take discussion.
Good stuff there. Lots of strong opinions.
Definitely. And our goal here is to help you cut through that noise, get to the heart of the arguments and debates surrounding this Warriors-Rockets clash.
So let's unpack it. What's the first big takeaway from their conversation?
Well, it seems like a major point was this idea that the Rockets, they might have already missed a huge chance.
You mean the Heat game, when Jimmy Butler was out?
That's the one. The commentary really hammered this point that not winning that game, not tying the series 2-2 then, well, it wasn't just a loss.
No, it felt bigger, a squandered opportunity, especially looking ahead at potentially facing the Warriors down 3-1. That's a tough hole.
Okay, but let's get specific. What exactly was the missed opportunity besides just the win? With Butler out, what should the Rockets have, capitalized on?
Well, think about it. Butler's presence, his defense, his offense. Him being out should have created openings, mismatches maybe, a chance to attack differently.
Right, so the fact they couldn't exploit that, it raises questions. Was it their game plan or maybe something deeper about their offense?
Exactly. It points towards maybe a lack of flexibility or perhaps just not being able to adapt on the fly when things break your way. It's more than just the scoreboard. It's about reading the game.
And that failure seems to put the spotlight even more intensely on certain players, doesn't it? Particularly Jaylen Green.
Oh, for sure. The discussion around him is really, well, it's split. You see that massive 38-point game, which is incredible.
Yeah, shows the potential.
But then you see the other playoff games, like 7 points, 9 points. That inconsistency, especially now, it makes people talk.
Talk about what exactly? His fit with the team long term.
Precisely.
Yeah.
There's this speculation, maybe fueled by those ups and downs, that he might be, quote, playing his way out of Houston.
Wow, that's strong.
It is. And it ties into this other idea floated. Should the Rockets maybe look at a bigger move? Like pursuing a trade for someone like Kevin Durant.
KD, really? That would be a blockbuster.
Huge. And the idea mentioned involved possibly getting Durant and Phoenix's first-round picks. That's a franchise-altering kind of move, trading young potential for a proven superstar.
But wouldn't that completely change their whole rebuild timeline? And you trade Green, you potentially create other gaps.
That's the risk. Absolutely. That's the counter-argument. You sacrifice that high ceiling, that youth, for maybe a shorter, more intense contention window with Durant. But there's also a really important piece of context they brought up about Green. It's his first playoffs. His first. And playing on the road against Steph Curry, against that Warriors team, that's immense pressure for a young player.
That's fair. Maybe judging him too harshly based on a few tough playoff games isn't quite right yet.
It might be premature, yeah.
Yeah.
PF intensity is just a whole different beast.
Okay, so shifting gears to the Warriors, there's this narrative, right, that they can hit really high highs, but maybe aren't totally trustworthy beyond Steph Curry just going nuclear.
Yeah, you hear that a lot, that Curry carries a massive offensive load.
But is that entirely fair? The commentary we looked at actually pointed to others stepping up sometime.
Right. They mentioned Game 3, specifically Gary Payton II and Buddy Hield. Payton had 17, Hield had 16. That's significant secondary scoring.
So it shows they can get contributions elsewhere, even if it's not every single night.
Exactly. It suggests the capability is there. And then there's the whole experience factor.
Ah, yes, the championship DNA, the mentality to go dig deep, as they put it.
Yeah.
How much does that actually matter in the thick of a series?
I think it matters a lot. It means they don't panic easily. They know how to grind out possessions, how to adjust. Look at Draymond Green in that one game.
What about him?
His second half was much better, apparently, especially his defense on Sengun. That's veteran savvy, making adjustments, locking in when needed.
Interesting. But on the flip side, the discussion also touched on Steve Kerr maybe not trusting Jonathan Kuminga much in key moments, pulling him from the rotation.
Yeah, that was noted. It suggests maybe Kerr's leaning on the veterans he trusts more when the pressure is highest.
Which brings up that classic coaching dilemma, right? Yeah. Developing youth versus winning now in the playoffs.
It's a tough balancing act.
Right.
Kerr might just be prioritizing that experience that perceives reliability in a tight series. Every possession feels huge.
Okay, let's tip it back to the Rockets for a second. A big issue highlighted was their shooting, or rather, their lack of consistent shooting.
Yeah, their three-point shooting specifically, ranked 25th in the league during the season, I think.
That low, wow. And that's got to be a major weakness against a team like Golden State, right?
Absolutely. In today's game, if you can't consistently hit from outside, it puts so much pressure on everything else your defense getting points in the paint.
Even with their strengths, like their defense and coaching under Ime Udoka?
Right, those are definite positives.
Yeah.
But struggling from three just makes it incredibly hard to keep pace offensively, especially in the playoffs when defenses tighten up.
Okay, and one more injury situation complicating things. Jimmy Butler's glute bruise. He was questionable for the Heat against the Rockets.
Yeah, and that adds another strategic layer. The discussion mentioned the Heat might be thinking longer term with him.
Like maybe holding him out or limiting him now to have him healthier later. They mentioned Game 4 as a target.
Exactly. Prioritizing his recovery for crucial games down the line.
Yeah.
It makes sense, even if it hurts them in the short term.
And they pointed out how much the Heat struggled when he was limited in Game 2, especially during the minutes Curry was off the floor for the Warriors. Shows his value.
Immense value.
Yeah.
Even though Butler himself apparently said he was ready, the team has to weigh that risk versus reward.
It's always a tough calculation. Now, just quickly, stepping back for the bigger picture, this Warriors-Rockets series is happening while other playoff matchups are moving fast.
Yeah, we're seeing some quick series. Thunder, Cavs, Celtics, Pacers all started undefeated, right?
Seems like it. Shows how dominant some teams can be early on.
Though they did mention Mavericks Timberwolves looking like it could go the distance, maybe 7 games.
A contrast there. And the Lakers struggling with three-point shooting against the T-Wolves, kind of echoing the Rockets' issues.
Right. And can't forget Ja Morant being out for the Grizzlies, a reminder of how injuries can just completely reshape a team's chances.
It really underscores how many variables are at play across the league right now.
Definitely. The playoffs are always unpredictable.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, it feels like we've covered a lot. The Rockets potentially letting a huge chance slip by.
The uncertainty around Jaylen Green's future in Houston, those Durant rumors adding spice.
The Warriors leaning on that championship experience, even if questions remain about their consistency beyond Steph.
The Rockets' shooting struggles being a key factor, and then the whole Jimmy Butler injury situation adding complexity elsewhere.
It really all weaves together, doesn't it?
It does. It paints a pretty complex picture of this series and the league.
So maybe the final thought to leave you, the listener, with is this. Considering everything we've talked about, the different team makeups, player trajectories, those missed opportunities, what single thing do you think ultimately decides this Warriors-Rockets series?
Yeah, and thinking bigger picture, what does this matchup tell us about building a contender today? That balance between young talent, veteran experience, and, well, just grabbing your chances when they appear. It's a really fascinating dynamic to watch play out.